Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coach Goes Back to College. This is week number 9, episode number 10. This show is brought to you by the Sports Affiliation Network. So this is on the Sports Affiliation YouTube. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you never miss a beat. Anytime that we do go live, post any pre-recorded content, and also be sure to check us out on Twitter, on X at the Sports Affiliate, so you can enjoy those live spaces as well over there. Also, shout out to our sponsors, Better Vision. Be sure to check out their app. It is available for Apple at this point in time. Android's on the way. But essentially what Better Vision is, it's an app that compiles a lot of sports books all together so that you can see kind of the best spots to bet, whether it's the best line, whether it's the best prop, a lot of different ways to approach that, so definitely be sure to check that out. And then also be sure to check out the Fantasy Football Advice Forum app. Definitely a great group of guys over there. Some good fantasy football conversation. If you bring some of this college talk in there, from like a Devi Dynasty perspective, they're probably not going to throw eggs at you or anything else like that. But without further ado, if you're brand new to this, checking out for the very first time, this is how I do structure this video. So we're going to start with one prospect to know, and then we'll go over to my personal game of the week. And then last but not least, we'll go over to my favorite prop for this week. And it's going to be a good one this week. I definitely feel it. Hopefully we get back on track after a couple not so great weeks in terms of the prop of the week. But without further ado, we are going to start out with the prospect to know this week. It is quarterback JJ McCarthy for the Michigan Wolverines. He is 6'3", 202 pounds, projected to run in the mid 4.5s in terms of speed. Pretty agile at that. Guy that probably could bulk up just a little bit more in terms of weight. Otherwise, pretty ideal size. Former 4-star recruit. He is a true junior. I do have the stats for the past 2 seasons because those are the 2 seasons that he has been a starter. Played a little bit as a true freshman too as well. He originally went to a small high school in Illinois. Then he transferred over to IMG Academy down in Florida. So obviously had a pretty experienced prep career there, going there for at least 1 season. Was pretty successful as a junior in Illinois, leading his team, I believe, to the state title as well. But when we talk about kind of what he's done so far throughout his college football career, last year, 64.6% completion percentage, 2,719 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 14 games. Good touchdown to interception ratio. Not crazy numbers when you think about it from a 14-game perspective, about 200 yards a game, just over 1.5 passing touchdowns per game. He also had 70 carries on the ground for 306 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. But, Michigan's been pretty good since he's been the quarterback there. So far this season in 2023, he's played 8 games, 78.1% completion percentage, just under 1,800 passing yards. So one shy of that at this point in time. 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So the touchdowns have been really good so far this year. He has maintained a very good touchdown to interception ratio. The yards still could be a little bit more here and there too, but they do have a really strong running attack, whether it is Blake Corum or Donovan Edwards in that backfield as well. 33 carries and 168 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns as well on the ground for McCarthy. So kind of when we talk about him as a prospect, a lot of people are talking about him as like this high-end first-round pick in this year's draft class. Do I think he's a top 10 pick this year? I personally don't think that at this point in time. I think, he could be a top 20 pick back half of the first round. I think he is ultimately a kid that should come back to school for 1 more season. Obviously, he'll get some NIL money there at the same time, and then could potentially compete for that number 1 overall pick. So when we talk about JJ McCarthy, kind of what does he do well at this point in time? He obviously is pretty athletic. He throws really well on the run. In structure is pretty good. A lot of first reads in this Michigan offense. Reminds me a lot of the Ohio State offense in years past. So a lot of first reads, a lot of easy throws and stuff like that too. So I kind of want to see what happens when he's asked to go to that second and third read just a little bit more. I do think that he has a really strong arm. He has the arm to make all the throws. Accuracy, when you look at the completion percentage, that factor is pretty good. Some of the ball placement, I would like to be just a little bit better, but I think a lot of that comes from his feet and his mechanics in his legs, because I think sometimes he gets a little bit too happy feet, doesn't set his back foot as much as you would like as he's thrown into the ball. So I think ultimately, once you get that kind of fixed, should help him out in terms of accuracy. So that's kind of where I'm at in him. If you ask me a player that he actually reminds me of so far, most people probably are not going to like this name. And it's Drew Lock, who was a 4-year starter at Missouri. So you got to keep that in mind. Missouri probably didn't have quite as a strong a cast around him, but also playing a tougher SEC too. So there's good and bad with both sides of that. Drew Lock didn't do too much at the NFL level, but, pretty much had like a year and a half that he was able to be a starter, first of all. So that's a whole nother story for a different day. But arm strength wise, size wise, they're pretty similar. Even if you look at their picture next to each other, they kind of look pretty similar in the face too. It's kind of crazy. But like I said, Drew Lock was a 4-year starter at Missouri. He progressively got slightly better. When he was coming out of Missouri, kind of one of the biggest things I had for him was also that happy feet and stuff like that too. I'm not sure that quite got better at the NFL level. It got better, but it never got better to the level you would want to. Obviously, ended up being a second-round pick, an early second-round pick. You know, that guy that was taught to go back half of the first round. But like I said, 4-year starter at Missouri compared to a 2-year starter at Michigan. So if J.J. McCarthy comes back for another year, whether it's at Michigan or somewhere else, I assume that it would be at Michigan, but you never know. So NIL money coming back, make some money in the side there, perfect some of the little things that, you know, you could be a little bit better at this point in time, whether it's the mechanics, the footwork, you know, just the little stuff and getting through that first read to the second read just a little bit quicker. He does get rid of the ball pretty quick though. So I do want to compliment him on that. And, you know, I don't want to make this sound like I don't like JJ McCarthy. I like him very much as a prospect, but I think there's still a lot of things that he needs to work on personally. And I think he's ultimately best served on coming back next season. And then, you know, making that strong case, you know, for a top 5 pick, maybe the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 draft. But, you know, if he comes out this year, I think he'll still probably end up being a first round pick, whether, you know, it's pick 20 or pick 32. But there's still a chance that he could slide into the second round at that point in time as well. So that's kind of my brief initial thoughts with JJ McCarthy. You know, I went through, watched, you know, like 4 or 5 games. Shout out to Greg from TSA as well, because you know, he was asking really what I thought about JJ McCarthy. I'm like, I really haven't seen enough this year to make kind of my statement on that, but that's just kind of what I've seen, you know, 3 or 4 games this year, a couple games last year watching as well. Obviously, we'll see what he looks like this season when he faces a tough Penn State defense, and then obviously that Ohio State game on the 25th as well of November. But with that being said, we're going to get transitioned over to my personal game of the week. So this week, you know, there's not a lot of standout games this week. You know, probably could pick like the easy one of like Oregon and Utah, like everybody else is going to talk about. I'm going with some action this week. We got the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. We got the Ohio Bobcats going off against each other. You know, it's in-state rivalry, Ohio. Both teams are actually 6-2 at this point in time. Miami, Ohio, there is that little typo there. I didn't fix that at this point, but Ohio is 7.5 home favorites. This game's going to be kind of interesting too, because you have 2 very experienced quarterbacks, Gabbert on the side for Miami of Ohio, and then Rourke on the side of Ohio. Ohio's got the really good running back in Bangura, who unfortunately let us down in week 1 for our props, but he's looked really strong since then. So the over-under on this game is 39.5 points. I think there's a chance that this game could hit the over. I think both these offenses are at least efficient enough, you know, that they put up, you know, about 20 to 21 points apiece. So definitely interested in that. Not a nationally televised game. 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time over on CBS Sports Network. Ohio did end up winning this game last season with this score of 37-21. So, you know, Miami's looking for their comeback here. This is very much going to play a major role in the MAC conference standings. Both these teams are 3-1 in the MAC at this point in time. I believe it's them, Buffalo on their side are all 3-1. So whoever wins is going to be in first place, a tie for first place if Buffalo ultimately wins on that side. And then on the opposite side, I believe it's Toledo's 4-0 and Northern Illinois 3-1 at this point in time. So some pretty good MAC teams at this point in time. A lot of pivotal games coming up for a lot of these MAC teams, especially at the top of the conference standings. So just want to highlight that one. You know, not a lot of people probably going to be talking about this game, but, you know, in-state rivalry has a lot of implications, especially on the standings for the MAC. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my prop of the week. Last week, unfortunately, we went with Cam Johnson. He only finished with 27 receiving yards. We needed at least 32 out of him. So that was the first time he missed that mark all season. It was a pretty good matchup versus Nebraska. So not going to really beat ourselves over the head too much for that one personally, though. This week we have C.J. Donaldson, running back for West Virginia, over 54.5 rushing yards. He has hit the over in 5 out of 7 games in 2023. He hit the over in 4 out of 7 games in 2022, which was kind of interesting because he came over as a true freshman, was kind of thought to be more of a tight end prospect than a running back prospect. So that was something to note there, first of all. And those 4 games that he hit last year, all 4 games were over 100 rushing yards. This week he goes against UCF or Central Florida, and they are allowing 215 rushing yards per game, which is a lot a lot of rushing yards, which is 128th in the country, which is one of the worst teams in all of college football. So it looks like a cake matchup there. If he can't get 55 rushing yards against them, something probably went really, really wrong in this game, or he did end up being injured. If you want to take the rushing yards on their quarterback Green as well for West Virginia, his is at 66.5. It's a pretty strong line for a quarterback, but he is very much a dual threat at quarterback as well. So definitely do like CJ Donaldson this week. Pair it with one of your other favorite props. Use PrizePicks, use ParlayPlay. All the codes are down in the description below if you want to use BetUs too as well. Not sure they have this prop up there, but definitely be sure to look out for some of the other props on BetUs as well. Like I said, links down in the description below. If you use it, helps you guys out a little bit. The first time you make a deposit helps me out a little bit on the side as well. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of Coach Goes Back to College, week number 9, episode number 10. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed. If there's anything else you'd like to see me throw into these videos in the future, be sure to let me know. And then as always, be sure to leave any college football notes for week number 9 down in the comments. If you want to talk anything college football, leave it down there, or reach out to me on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport and be more than happy to talk some college football with you guys as well. But with that being said, definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. And if you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe to the Sports Affiliation YouTube page. Like this video, give it a comment. Make sure that you have those notifications turned on so you never miss any of the content that we put up throughout the week. A lot of good live streams out there. Watch alongs for Thursday and Monday Night Football, the betting show with Iggy and Evan. A lot of great content already out and coming soon as well. And then also be sure to check out my own personal channel, Coach Craig Sports. Go over pretty much anything DFS related over there. So if that's something you're into, definitely be sure to check that out as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning into this video. Definitely means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to the rest of the Sports Affiliation crew as well. And with that being said, I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, no matter what day you're watching this video on, and a great weekend full of college football for week number 9.